They say Hollywood is built on illusions, but sometimes the most powerful moments happen when those illusions crack, when the mask slips, and when two souls collide with such force that everyone in the room feels a shockwave. This is the story of one such moment, a moment that has been whispered about in the dark corners of studio commissaries for decades. A moment when a young, hungry actor named James Dean looked at an established star named Dean Martin and did the unthinkable. He mocked him, right there on set, in front of God, the crew, and everybody. But what happened next? That's the part that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about pride, vulnerability, and what it really means to be a legend. The Kingdom of Paramount, 1952. Picture Paramount Studios in the spring of 1952. The air smells like cigarettes, coffee, and ambition. The lot is buzzing with the kind of energy that only comes when dreams are being manufactured on an industrial scale. Sound stages tower like cathedrals, and inside them, miracles happen daily. Movies are made, stars are born, and occasionally worlds collide. On Stage 7, they're shooting Sailor Beware, a comedy vehicle for the hottest duo in Hollywood, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. These two are printing money for Paramount. Every picture they make is gold. Dean Martin, with his velvet voice and Roman god looks, plays a straight man to Jerry's manic clown. Together, they're unstoppable. The formula works. The audiences eat it up. The studio executives sleep well at night. Dean Martin strolls onto the set at 9 a.m., impeccably dressed even in his sailor costume. He's got that thing, that indefinable quality that makes cameras love him and audiences trust him. He's smooth. He's relaxed. He makes it all look easy. Because for Dean, it is easy. He doesn't overthink it. He doesn't torture himself. He shows up. He hits his marks. He delivers his lines with that lazy charm. And he goes home to his family. Acting, for Dean Martin, isn't art. It's a job. A very good job that pays very well and beats working in a steel mill. But it's still just a job. This attitude drives some people crazy. The serious actors, the method actors, the ones who want to talk about motivation and emotional truth and sense memory. Dean doesn't have time for that nonsense. He'd rather be on a golf course. But on this particular morning, someone else is on that set. Someone who lives and breathes for the craft. Someone who would rather die than phone in a performance. Someone who is about to shake up Dean Martin's comfortable world. His name? James Dean. He's nobody, a bit player, an extra with a few lines. He plays a sailor in one scene. It's nothing. It's a blip. In a few years, James Dean will become one of the most iconic actors who ever lived. But right now, in 1952, he's just a hungry kid from Indiana trying to claw his way up the ladder. And he's burning with something, a fire, an intensity, a desperate need to be seen, to be heard, to matter. When James Dean walks onto that set, he carries himself differently than the other extras. He doesn't shuffle to the background and wait for his cue. He studies. He watches. He prepares. For hours before his single scene, he's been backstage, getting into character. He's created an entire biography for his sailor. He knows where this guy is from. He knows what he's afraid of. He knows what he ate for breakfast. Dean Martin notices this kid. How could he not? The boy is practically vibrating with intensity. Between takes, while Dean is smoking and joking with Jerry, this James Dean character is off in the corner, muttering to himself, doing vocal exercises, staying in character. Who's the method kid? Dean asks the assistant director. Some nobody. James Dean. He's got one line. Dean Martin shrugs. Kid's gonna give himself a stroke. But there's something else in Dean's voice. Not quite mockery. Not quite concern. Something else. Maybe a flicker of, what? Envy? Impossible. What would Dean Martin have to envy about a nobody extra? The morning passes. They shoot the master. They shoot the coverage. Dean delivers his lines with that effortless cool. Jerry does his shtick. The director, Hal Walker, seems pleased. It's all going smoothly. Then it's time for James Dean's scene. The method versus the ease. The setup is simple. Dean Martin's character is at a bar in his sailor uniform. James Dean's character is supposed to walk up, Deliver a line about shore leave and walk away. That's it. 10 seconds of screen time. Most actors would be grateful for even that much. But James Dean doesn't do anything the simple way. When they call action, something happens. James Dean doesn't just walk into scene. He becomes. His entire body language changes. His eyes take on a different quality. He's not James Dean anymore. He's this sailor. This scared kid far from home trying to act tough. And when he delivers his line, it's not just words. It's a whole life lived in that moment. The problem? It's too much. Way too much for a comedy. Way too intense for a throwaway moment in a Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis picture. It's like watching someone perform Shakespeare at a children's birthday party. Cut. How Walker calls out. He walks over to James Dean, puts a hand on his shoulder. That was interesting, kid. But this isn't a streetcar named Desire. We're making a comedy here. Just say the line. Keep it light. Don't act so hard. James Dean's jaw tightens. You can see it. The rebellion forming. The resistance. But he nods. Yes, sir. I understand. They reset. They go again. And again, James Dean brings a thunder. He can't help himself. This is all he knows how to do. Give everything. Hold nothing back. Bleed for every moment. Even the small ones. Especially the small ones. Cut. Walker is less patient this time. Kid, I'm going to need you to tone it down by about 90%. This is background. This is texture. You're making a meal out of a crumb. Dean Martin is watching all this from his position at the bar. He's seen plenty of actors over the years. But this kid is something different. There's a hunger there that actually makes Dean uncomfortable because it reminds him of something. Maybe something he used to have before Hollywood smoothed out all his rough edges. Maybe something he traded away for comfort and paychecks. They tried the scene 5 more times. Each time, James Dean gives it everything. Each time, it's wrong for the movie. Each time, you can see the frustration building in the young actor's body, like steam in a pressure cooker. Finally, during a break, it happens. The moment everything changed. They're resetting the lights. The crew is busy. Jerry Lewis is off chatting with the producers. Dean Martin is at the prop bar, sipping what's supposed to be whiskey but is actually iced tea, when James Dean approaches him. The kid's face is flushed. His eyes are blazing. And before anyone realizes what's happening, he starts talking. Not talking. Performing. At Dean Martin. You know what your problem is? James Dean's voice cuts through the ambient noise of the set. Crew members freeze. This nobody is addressing Dean Martin. This does not happen. Dean turns slowly, an eyebrow raised. Excuse me? Your problem. James Dean continues. And now he's doing something shocking. He's mimicking Dean. He's got the slouch. He's got the lazy hand gestures. He's got the half-closed eyes. Is that you don't give a damn. You walk through this like you're still half asleep. You treat it like it's nothing, like it's beneath you. The set has gone silent, absolutely silent. You could hear a pin drop on that soundstage. A prop master later described it as watching a mouse lecture a lion. Dean Martin doesn't move, doesn't react. He just stares at this kid with those hooded eyes, taking a slow sip of his fake whiskey. When he finally speaks, his voice is soft, dangerous soft. That right? James Dean is shaking now, but he can't stop himself. The dam is broken. Yeah, that's right. You got all this talent, all this opportunity, and you waste it. You coast. You could be great, really great, but you'd rather be comfortable. You'd rather be easy. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Martin. Easy is the enemy of art. Easy is death. The crew is in shock. This is career suicide. This is insanity. Nobody talks to Dean Martin like this. Nobody. The assistant director starts moving forward, ready to throw this kid off the lot. But Dean Martin raises a hand, stops him, and then Dean Martin does something that no one expects. He laughs. Not a cruel laugh, not a dismissive laugh. A real laugh, a genuine laugh, deep and rich and full of something that sounds almost like recognition. Easy as death. Dean repeats, tasting the words. That's pretty good, kid. Pretty good. He sets down his glass, takes a step closer to James Dean. Now they're face to face. The established star and the hungry nobody. You think I'm coasting? Dean asks, and his voice has changed. The smooth showbiz veneer has cracked. Something real is coming through. You think this is easy for me? Isn't it? James Dean fires back, but some of the heat has gone out of him. He's starting to realize he may have miscalculated. Kid, Dean Martin says, and now his voice is quiet, almost gentle. Let me tell you something about easy. I grew up in Steubenville, Ohio. My old man worked in a barber shop. We had nothing. You know what I wanted? I wanted to not have nothing. That's it. That was the dream. Not art, not immortality, not to be in the history books. I wanted to make enough money so my kids would never feel what I felt. He pauses, lights a cigarette. The crew is still frozen, watching this moment unfold. You come in here with all your intensity, all your method, all your emotional truth. And you know what I see? I see me, 20 years ago, hungry, desperate, needing everyone to know I was special, needing to prove something. James Dean's face is changing. The defiance is melting into something else. Confusion, maybe recognition. But you know what I learned, kid? Dean continues. I learned that the audience doesn't want to see you bleed. They want to be entertained. They want to escape. They want to laugh and forget about their problems for 2 hours. And if I can give them that, if I can make it look easy so they can relax and have fun, that's not coasting. That's a gift. That's generosity. He takes a drag of his cigarette, and when he speaks again, there's something almost sad in his voice. You're young. You're talented. You're going to do great things. I can see it. But let me give you some advice, and you can take it or leave it. This thing you're carrying around, this need to prove yourself in every moment, it's going to eat you alive. It's going to make you great, sure. But it's also going to destroy you, because you'll never be satisfied. You'll never feel like you've done enough. You'll burn so bright that you'll burn out. The soundstage is utterly silent. James Dean is staring at Dean Martin with wide eyes, and for the first time since he walked onto the set, he's not performing. He's just a kid, a scared, ambitious, talented kid who just got his mask ripped off. I'm not saying don't care, Dean says softly. I'm saying know when to let it be easy. Know when good enough is good enough. Because if you don't, this business will kill you. And kid, that would be a waste. Dean Martin stubs out his cigarette, claps James Dean on the shoulder. Now go to your scene. To say the line. Don't act. Just be. See what happens. And then he walks away, back to his mark, back to his comfortable world. But something has shifted. Everyone feels it. The aftermath. They shoot the scene again. And this time, James Dean doesn't push. He doesn't force. He doesn't try to create a character with depth and backstory. He just walks up to the bar, delivers his line like a normal person, and walks away. It's perfect. It fits the movie. It's exactly what the scene needed. Print it. How Walker calls out, relief flooding his voice. James Dean walks off the set in a daze. He doesn't say goodbye. He doesn't thank anyone. He just leaves. And as he walks through the lot, past the sound stages and the trailers and all the machinery of Hollywood, he's processing something profound. Was Dean Martin right? Was his intensity, his need to be seen, really just fear dressed up as passion? Was he trying so hard to prove he mattered that he was missing the point? Or was Dean Martin wrong? Was Dean's ease really just surrender? Had the older actor given up on greatness for comfort? Had he settled? The truth, of course, is more complicated than either position. They're both right. They're both wrong. There are two different approaches to the same impossible profession. Two different ways of surviving the machinery that eats most people alive. In the years that followed, both men would prove their worth in different ways. James Dean would explode onto the screen in East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant. He would become the definition of intensity, of youth and revolt, of the beautiful tragedy of burning too bright. And then, in 1955, at 24 years old, he would die in a car crash. Dean Martin's words would prove prophetic. The fire that made James Dean great consumed him. Dean Martin would continue to make people laugh, to charm audiences, to seem effortless even as he built an empire. He would survive in Hollywood for decades, adapting, evolving, always knowing when to push and when to coast. He would become a legend in his own right, proving that longevity has its own kind of greatness. But according to those who were there that day, something else happened in the wake of their confrontation. Something small but significant. Dean Martin started putting a little more effort into his performances. Not much. He was still Dean Martin. But there was an edge there that hadn't been before. A consciousness. As if James Dean's words had woken something up in him that had been sleeping. And James Dean, in the few films he made before his death, showed moments of restraint. Moments where he pulled back. Moments where he let the camera come to him instead of attacking it. As if Dean Martin's advice had given him permission to trust his talent instead of forcing it. They never worked together again. They never became friends. But they had given each other something valuable in that brief, shocking moment on Stage 7. They had shown each other a mirror. And in that mirror, each man saw not just his strengths, but his blind spots. What the crew never forgot. Ask anyone who was there that day, and they'll tell you the same thing. It wasn't the mocking that shocked them. It was what came after. It was Dean Martin's response. Because in that moment, the king of cool showed that beneath the smooth exterior, beneath the jokes and the charm and the easy smile, there was a real person. A person who had thought deeply about his craft and his choices. A person who could be vulnerable. And James Dean, the intense young rebel, showed that beneath all that fire and fury, there was insecurity. There was doubt. There was a kid trying to prove his worth to a world that scared him. In other words, they were both human, both flawed, both doing their best with what they had. The prop master, who was there that day, a guy named Eddie Sutherland, later said, "We all wanted to watch Dean knock that kid on his ass. We expected fireworks. Instead, we got wisdom. We got two men really seeing each other. It was the realest moment I ever witnessed on a Hollywood set. And I worked on sets for 40 years. The cinematographer, Arthur Martinelli, remembered it this way. Dean Martin taught that kid something in 5 minutes that some actors never learn in a lifetime. He taught him that different doesn't mean wrong, that there's more than one way to be great. And Jimmy Dean, whether he knew it or not, reminded Dean Martin why he started doing this in the first place. They both walked away better for it. The lesson that echoes. So what does this story teach us? What can we take from this collision of two Deans, two philosophies, two approaches to the same impossible dream? Maybe it's this. There's no one right way to live. There's no one right way to work. There's no one right way to be an artist or to be a person. James Dean's intensity had value. Dean Martin's ease had value. Both men were trying to survive. Both men were trying to create something meaningful. They just had different tools. The tragedy is that we usually can't see the validity of the other side. We're so convinced our way is right that we mock, we judge, we dismiss. James Dean looked at Dean Martin and saw laziness. Dean Martin looked at James Dean and saw self-destruction. But when they really talked, when they really connected, they saw something else. They saw themselves reflected back. That's the shocking part, not the mocking, the understanding. In our own lives, we're all either James Dean or Dean Martin. We're either pushing too hard or not hard enough. We're either burning too bright or playing it too safe. And when we encounter someone doing it differently than us, our first instinct is to judge, to mock, to dismiss. But what if we stopped? What if we listened? What if we considered the possibility that their way might also be valid, that their approach might have wisdom we're missing? Dean Martin could have had James Dean thrown off the lot. He had every right. The kid was out of line. But instead, he gave him the gift of his experience. He shared his truth without diminishing James Dean's truth. And James Dean, who could have walked away bitter and defensive, actually heard what Dean Martin said. He let it in. He let it change him, even a little. That's the real shock. That's the real story. Two proud men in a business that encourages pride and competition and ego, actually connecting, actually seeing each other, actually learning from each other. The echo through time. It's been over 70 years since that day on Stage 7 at Paramount. Both Deans are gone now. James Dean died young, frozen forever at 24, the eternal rebel. Dean Martin lived to 78, dying on Christmas Day 1995, his easy smile and velvet voice silenced at last. But the moment they shared, that brief collision of intensity and ease, of hunger and comfort, of youth and experience, that moment still resonates, because it speaks to something eternal in the human experience. We're all trying to figure out how to live, how much to give, how much to hold back, when to push, when to coast, when to burn bright, and when to conserve our flame. There's no easy answer. James Dean was right. Easy can be death. Complacency can kill the spirit. But Dean Martin was also right. Burning too hot can consume you. Desperation can blind you. The wisdom is in the balance. The wisdom is in understanding that both approaches have merit. The wisdom is in knowing yourself well enough to recognize when you're pushing too hard or not hard enough. And most importantly, the wisdom is in being open to learning from people who do things differently than you. If James Dean had lived, who knows what he might have become? Maybe he would have learned to modulate his intensity. Maybe he would have found a way to survive in Hollywood without losing his fire. Or maybe he would have burned out anyway, consumed by the very passion that made him great. If Dean Martin could go back, would he choose differently? Would he push harder, fight for more challenging roles, chase artistic immortality instead of comfort? Or would he make the same choices, valuing stability and family and longevity over legacy? We'll never know. But here's what we do know. On that spring day in 1952, two men met. They clashed, they connected, and they gave each other a gift that neither could have received from anyone else at that moment. James Dean gave Dean Martin a reminder of the fire he once had, the hunger that drove him to Hollywood in the first place. A reminder that there's value in caring deeply, in giving a damn, in treating every moment as if it matters. And Dean Martin gave James Dean a warning wrapped in wisdom, a caution that intensity without wisdom leads to self-destruction, a reminder that survival has its own virtue, a perspective that would haunt James Dean for the brief, brilliant remainder of his life. The final word. The story of two Deans colliding on a Hollywood soundstage isn't really about acting techniques or career strategies. It's about something deeper. It's about the eternal human struggle to find the right balance between passion and peace, between ambition and contentment, between burning bright and lasting long. Every one of us faces this choice in our own way every single day. Do we push harder or pull back? Do we care more or care less? Do we risk everything or protect what we have? The answer, if there is one, is that we need both. We need the James Dean fire to keep us alive and engaged and reaching for something greater. And we need the Dean Martin ease to keep us sane and sustainable and connected to what actually matters. The shock isn't that they clashed. The shock is that they learned from each other. In a world that encourages us to double down on our own way of doing things, to dismiss anyone who approaches life differently, these two men, for just a moment, put down their defenses and really saw each other. That's the story worth telling. That's the moment that shocked the crew, not the mocking, the understanding, not the conflict, the connection. So the next time you encounter someone doing things differently than you, whether in work or art or life, maybe don't mock them. Maybe don't dismiss them. Maybe, just maybe listen, because they might be the other half of the equation you've been missing. They might have the answer to the question you've been asking. They might have the piece of wisdom that completes the puzzle. James Dean and Dean Martin. One burned bright and died young. One coasted smooth and lasted long. But for one shining moment, they met in the middle. And in that meeting, they both became more than they were before. That's not just a Hollywood story. That's a human story. That's your story and mine. So burn bright when you need to, coast when you must. But most importantly, stay open, stay humble, stay willing to learn from the person who does everything opposite from you. Because that person, they might be the teacher you've been searching for. They might be the mirror you need to see yourself clearly. They might be the shock that changes everything.